Welcome to State of the Galaxies. Galaxies. Oh! This will be a shorter one because there's a follow-on broadcast that, so I don't want to, interfere with that, and so I'm going to be really quick. I see everybody in the chat. Hello to everybody that's in the actual chat. And let's get moving. So, State of Galaxies. There really weren't many questions on the site for the show. I asked Franny to compile them, and there really weren't any. There was one, which was, do TG developers use a sandbox environment to test their code before publication to the live site? A lot of odd behaviors are arriving on this live site, which makes me think it's being tested on directly, which doesn't make sense for a good user experience. Well, the answer is yes. We actually have an entire replication of the Twin Galaxies site that we do all of our testing on, but like anything, you can't predict. We bring stuff over, and of course there's problems. That's why we are in this long, protracted beta period to just try to get everything right. But yes, there is a test. There'd be no way to bring in some of these features without having it tested, because there's just no way. So there's your answer. We'll try to do a better job. A lot of moving parts. So many features, so little time. So many resources. It's got to be spread among. Anyhow, let's move on. Ungrandfathering. For those of you who don't know what grandfathering is, there was a long period of time where a track will be created in the Twin Galaxies database where people will compete on, and scores will be put in, but then there might be there might have been a reason to close that track to incoming scores. Some of those reasons were people discovered that the rules were insufficient and exploits were found making the track into, say, a leech fest where you could just repeat the same action over and over again, and so it effectively made the track useless. So they would close that track and maybe open a new one. There might have been a special event at some particular arcade with a very special set of settings, and they just wanted to only have it for that, so they would close that track. So these tracks are called grandfathered tracks, which is they're in there, but you can't actually submit on them. This is ungrandfathering tracks has been an issue for several people that they have raised. So I've really looked closely at why tracks were sealed off, why these things were grandfathered in the first place, and I've actually discussed this with various ex-referees of previous eras of Twin Galaxies. And it really ultimately came down to a way to control track dilution and retaining value in a particular track category. So it's grandfathered tracks are really a form of anti-dilutive effort on the database. Now, with the way that Twin Galaxies functions now, where tracks sort of live and die by their own legitimacy and popularity, where the community can really specify how significant they think a track is relative to another track on the same game, and also where the value of holding a position on a track is not equal across all tracks anymore, because now a track that has more competition on it is worth more, provably, to the user who's holding a ranking on that track than a track that has 2 participants and you're holding a rank on that track. Twin Galaxies now has a method of creating that separation, whereas before all tracks were basically created equal. There was no real there was no real way to distinguish whether one track was regarded as more elevated than another, beyond just being in the community and kind of being in the know. That was it. So, with this new system that effectively lets tracks survive or die, really, on their own popularity or interest or what have you, it's very difficult to justify a continued policy of grandfathered tracks. If there's a track that's been grandfathered because it basically turns into a leech fest, in our system today, who cares? No one will want to play on it. It'll get rated very low. It won't be worth much to hold a position on that track. So why not ungrandfather it? And for the people who want to compete on that track, for whatever reason, let them. If that's fun for them, let them do it. So I searched around for various objections. I got a lot of interesting feedback, but I think what we're going to have to do after this broadcast is ungrandfather all the tracks. Everything. Does anybody have any comments in the chat about this? Does the Settle It on the Screen team have anything to say about this? Anybody? I'm listening now to any comment on ungrandfathering all of it and just letting the tracks live and die by their own significance, by their own interest for the players. Anybody? Bueller? 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 Datagrod's in, Mooner's in. What about you guys? Sroka? I can't hear you.
Hey!
There you guys. All right.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. It should live or die. If it's a worthy track, people will compete on it, and if not, they won't. And just let it die. I mean, a lot of people look at tracks like that currently in the database that aren't grandfathered. They're just like, well, I don't want to. Like, I mean, I don't want to go against it. I mean,
no, if there's interest in it, it'll live. But if there's no point.
I will never play easy. I'll never go for a track on easy Guitar Hero Rock Band. It just doesn't interest me. So the same, if it interests other people, that's great. There'll be enough competition. And I think what you said, Jace, is, and I think everybody agrees with that.
Okay, so there's really no reason for things to be grandfathered anymore. Although I think everybody understands that the reason things got grandfathered was for anti-dilution. It was an idea about anti-dilution, but I just don't think we need it anymore. So I think we're all good, right? We can do that?
Yeah.
All right.
I actually had a question for you, Jace.
Yeah.
I was wondering if your proposal to ungrandfather everything was including, tracks that are under review. That's like 7 tracks in the database have the words under review attached to them, and so you can't submit for them.
Are they, so these were tracks that pre-existed and had under review on them, and they're currently sealed off. You can't submit on them right now?
Yeah, they were placed under review because there would be, if there was a dispute on that title that never got settled, the ref would, at the time, would place it under review, and some of these never just, they're still like that.
I see. And so like the dispute on the title would mean in terms of the rules that are there? Or what would be like a point of contention that would cause something to be under review, if you can remember or know?
I mean, I went to do Mortal Kombat 1 for the arcade. That's the one I know, and that's under review because of the rules. No, they accused somebody of cheating, is what it was. I think that's what it was, and that got settled, but the game never got opened.
Off the screen.
Okay.
We had to.
Yeah.
Well, for the moment, the idea is ungrandfathering everything. Whether it was under review or not, And then with everything open and able to take submissions, if problems come up for a particular title, we can look at it and just figure out why and what the problem is. But for the most part, I believe in sort of the market sorting out these issues. And so when you let the track sort of live and die by their own means, it'll just over time create the natural hierarchy. So yes, it'll be opened.
Cool.
Let's see. What do you think about people that come in to play games for fun and not to hold high records? Okay, Telebro, listen, this is one of the shifts that people have to understand in Twin Galaxies, and it's a big shift, and I think it's a subtle shift though, so it's lost on people. Twin Galaxies had a very hard limitation on how many things it could adjudicate by hand with a single person watching videotapes. So that really limited how many scores it could keep on any particular title across the board. Now we have the ability to hold and rank everybody from first place to a millionth place on any game and all games and all platforms. So what that means is you don't have to submit to Twin Galaxies to be the best ever. You should submit to Twin Galaxies just to see where you fall in rank, because eventually over time Twin Galaxies will start to offer value for your contribution in general. Think of it like frequent flyer miles. You're playing games anyway, submit the performances in, help adjudicate all the performances, and you get frequent flyer miles on your Twin Galaxies club card, which will eventually come into existence. And when you slide that sucker through at wherever, 7-Eleven or you name it, you're able to redeem those coupon points that you've earned just by submitting. You don't have to be the best in the world. Now, obviously, the higher up you rank in the system, the more benefits you'll receive on your membership card, right? The number one player of a hotly competed video game is effectively a celebrity and should receive celebrity-like benefits in society when they move their card from wherever they go. So these are the things that we're working on. And so what you want to do now is just submit your performances and help adjudicate all the performances and participate in the community, because these are valuable things that are coming down the pike. Just know that. Be patient, but just know that there's a complete, utter, comprehensive vision to appreciate players of all skill levels and afford them an opportunity to be rewarded for that, whether it's on the cell phone or the 3DS or whatever. Okay, let's move on. The Twin Galaxies Arcade and Esports Center. You may have heard of it. This is a gigantic facility that is the result of a partnership where we've pooled resources with what used to be called the Arcade Expo. And now we are coming together to make it even bigger and better and have better gear and more stuff and classic consoles and PCs, the whole 9 yards. It's effectively a private Olympic center for Twin Galaxies to hold its periodic special events and broadcast from and invite players to. It's private. It's just not a public place. We announced it and invited broadcasters to come in and just sort of see it and spread the word. So like millions and millions of people saw the facility, and now we're getting lots of inquiries about it, and people want to do things and all that other stuff. But here's some pictures of what went down. There's a number of rooms and areas. It's all sort of Twin Galaxied out. We had Nerdist there. They're a very popular broadcast and website. If you go to nerdist.com, you can see what that's all about. We had Geek and Sundry, which is founded by Felicia Day. They were there. That's a huge audience as well. We had the Stream.tv. There was a bunch of content creators and broadcasters. Some actually, I ran into one group who has created, I don't think they've released it yet, but an entire sort of Mad Max parody, Angry Bananas. And so there's a lot of fun to there. Okay. Zaz says, Jace, one disadvantage I have is that I only have emulators and TG accepts so few emulators. No. The emulator platform array is going to get much wider. So there's going to be more of those added, particularly in the speedrun stuff, which I will be getting to. Data God has a question. Do you envision a day when faraway places can have official TV-sanctioned tournaments? There are a lot of Canadians who simply cannot travel to California, but are amazing game regions. Yeah, okay, so let me be clear about this. The Twin Galaxies arcade facility is really supposed to be sort of like the pinnacle place that you wind up going after, you know, like for instance, we will be using the Twin Galaxies scoreboard as the method of screening out who sort of gets invited to the pros and the semi-pros and the finals of things. And when we have an event there, it won't just be just classic arcading. It'll be classic arcade events, mobile Olympics, classic console, all at the same time. And all the people there will have been invited and will have a player skill index that you can track and all this other stuff. This has nothing to do with Twin Galaxies' general support for other arcades or other places to hold events and have Twin Galaxies help them get the word out or support them or whatever. In terms of rankings, in terms of rankings or world records, everything has to go through TGSAP. There's not going to be this moment where the evidence of a performance is just happens. There's no archive or record of it, and then someone just stands there and says, "Yes, you've got it," and then it goes into the database. That's not that can't happen. So the way an arcade in Canada, so they would call us up and they would say, "Hey, you know, we'd really like Twin Galaxies to be behind this and make this sort of an official place." There will be a couple things that we'll have to delineate for that. One will be, how are you qualifying the players in your tournament, whatever tournament that is. We would want them to have a Twin Galaxies membership, some sort of PSI rating of some type, or the ability to build one. We would work with them for all of that. We would also want to work with them so that we can do live broadcast coverage of their event so people can see it. And they would need to know that how to set up to record some of these performances, so that we have the record of it, so that all these performances can go into TGSAP and everybody can adjudicate them in or out. So there's a process, and they may not want them to go into the database. They just might want the finals to go into the database or whatever. All of that is fine, and we'll figure it out. But we're definitely in support of that. It's just, there's so many things to do. I just haven't gotten to it, man. That's all there is to it. We're getting there. We're getting there. But we're not there yet. So just patience, please. Nimbus says, I must say privatizing of what happened in Banning was not so positive. It adds an elitist feeling to a venue that never needed such a vibe. Turning it again to an invitation makes it only a boys' club. That's my... Listen, you cannot go and compete with Tiger Woods in his golf tournament. That's it. You can't go do that. Now, if you feel... like the place in Banning is not a public arcade. It never was designed to be. It's not for the public. It is for the TG community. Now, if you're a participating member in the Twin Galaxies community, that place is for you. You're invited. It's that simple. So that's one of the benefits of being a Twin Galaxies member, right? You are now able to go there. That's just that simple. If If you want to, there's all different ways to compete there, but that's how you get in. The event in banning that we just had was purely for media purposes. There were no tournaments. There were no skill tests or anything. It was to allow content creators and broadcasters to see what this is, understand what Twin Galaxies is about, and broadcast that to their communities. It wasn't for the public to come and mill about. That's not what it's about. So I've heard you. You have been heard, and hopefully you might not like my answer, but at least I gave one. Okay, so stuff happened, right? We had what's called a step and repeat. I learned this, where you could take your photos against it. We have, the Twin Galaxies main gear PCs were all set up, and people were playing there. It was all very interesting, and everybody was able to sort of get the vibe of what Twin Galaxies is all about, because you have to understand, well, a lot of you already know what Twin Galaxies is about. A big chunk of the new gaming universe doesn't. And it needs to understand, where does Twin Galaxies sit relative to all of these other things? Are you the MLG? Are you this? Are you that? How does this work? So that's what it was for. Yes, Supernautic, the red carpet's right there underneath the step and repeat. Game list. There is a game list. I've seen it. We haven't published it. We probably will publish it. I don't know when, but yes, at some point. Moving on. Speedrun stuff. Okay. So we haven't advertised or promoted this because it's not finished, but it's being added to the Twin Galaxies database. We've already added 15,000 speedrun tracks that cover the rule sets that the speedrun community has established and worked with. So all of that is in there. Some of the way the speedrun community likes to track certain runs require our database to be modified, because they like to set up things like, Zelda 64 easy mode, Zelda 64 medium mode, Zelda 64 hard mode, and then underneath all the different levels, for example. And so if you take that and just plug it straight into our database, it creates this endless list of tracks that you get lost in. So we have to modify our database so it can actually nest and create a tree, so that when you click Zelda for speed running, then underneath that is all the options, and underneath that and that. So when we're done, so for those special types of speedrun tracks, that's like another 15,000 variations inside of there. So when we're done, there'll be probably, 35,000 speedrun tracks, all with the rules established by the speedrun community. And the speedrun community can submit or not. It's there as a service for Twin Galaxies to be able to provide that type of playing. It's listed in our platforms. You'll see, if you were to go to World Records, you could see that it's, I think I can probably pull it up. Where is it? Here, it would be here. Right, so if you go to World Rankings, of course this is not finished. And you click here, see it says speedruns. When you click speedruns, underneath it is, and there's still some errors in the track listing, but underneath it are all these speedrun tracks. Oh, let me back up. We got to get the paging fixed and blah, blah, blah. But, so if I look at the speedrun of Cobra Triangle, underneath, it's an any percent. There haven't been any rules defined for it as per the speedrun community, so it just matches. And then you can submit on it if you want to. And when you submit on a speedrun track, it's a different submission form, and it lets in it so that the platform, because some speedrun tracks will allow you to compete on any platform as long as it has the game. So anyway, it's all set up the way the speedrun community is used to submitting, with their regions and all this other stuff. It's almost finished. It's not quite, but we're getting there. And at that point, Twin Galaxies was easily the most comprehensive tracking world like record related ranking site that there is, because it's everything really. Like it's a lot of work. It's cost a fair amount of money to do it, but I think that it's the right thing to do. The traditional Twin Galaxies speedrun tracks, no glitches, spirit of the game, and all that. Those do not move into the speedrun category. They're staying where they always were with the Twin Galaxies set of tracks. So those are still there, and they are separate from the speedrun community's way of doing things. So you can choose either in terms of how you want to compete. So let me look at the chat for a second. Do I have any idea of how many gamers will be invited to the Olympic-style event? The facility can handle a couple thousand people. So when we have those events, you're talking about a large number, and you're talking about these events going over the course of days, right? The casino and all that cool stuff is right next to the facility, so there's plenty of hotels and all that other stuff. But you're talking about a real event that's fun and, you know, all of that stuff. So, okay. So, let us continue on back. Did everybody get the speedrun stuff down? Did everybody understand? Okay. Moving on. So, user interface stuff is coming, and we're having artists custom create icons and graphics so that navigating our database is easier, so that looking at the submission review forum is easier. We're going to have pre-created search filters. So this is just an example of some of the graphics that are being built specifically for the Twin Galaxies site, like the Mattel Aquarius or Macintosh. So now when when you go to the platforms to pick your platforms, you can still do it the old way. But the new way, but for people who want it to feel a little bit easier, you'll also see all these icon graphics, and you can just click them and get what you want just through clicking. When you're in the submission review forum, let's see if I can pull that up. What we're going to do here is you'll see. So if you look on this left side here of each thing in review, there's like a little document thing. Those will change. Those will actually become the platform that it actually is. So you'll be able to quickly look and see what that is. And then up on the top here will be icons of the platforms. And so you can just click them, and when you click them, it'll only show the submissions to review for that particular platform category. So it'll be fast and easy and clean looking and simple. And this is all being lined up so that we can have a superior mobile experience, which we're working on it. So let me see, moving on. That's it. That's all. For those of you who have not seen the Twin Galaxies arcade stuff, here is the 90-second video of the arcade. So you can check it out. See, that was the old arcade. So we kind of go into the old arcade, but then no, it's like the new one. Okay. What? No. See, so there's all kinds of stuff in arcade machines. And there's areas for us to build further out. There's the pinball. That was the shot for Lonnie McDonald, the joust. And so you want to be there. You want to participate. You want to be there. Submit scores. Build up your PSI. Get there. Some of the things that we're talking about, I think I want to try to replicate the original That's Incredible World Championships, and also invite, Darren Olson and Ben Gold and and back to try to have a rematch, you know, but also have, you know, other people be able to participate too. Wiggles, is the arcade in the same building I'm in now? No, it's not. It's about 90 minutes from this building, but we're building a small arcade here too for our production purposes. Is it possible to be a franchisee of TG like I have a TG Midwest? What do you mean by that sort of specifically? In terms of what would that encompass? Always open to supporting ideas and trying to figure out how to create more player appreciation and all that. So it just needs to be a little more clear as to what you mean. Right now, I'm trying to figure out how to support the Kong off. So Richie and I have to talk and figure out what we're going to do there and how to help that. When I'm done with the broadcast, probably later in the evening tonight, I will go and ungrandfather all the tracks. I have to have my engineers do it, and they're not awake. Is there anything else that anybody had? Pretty much do what we have in California, but in the Midwest. Well, I mean, really what we have in California, you mean in terms of having a facility? There's some challenges there, but we could talk about it. See, the thing is, because our facility is totally private and it's not touched by anybody else other than us, we can make sure that all the arcade machines have TGTS settings, that they're always located in the same spot year after year, so people know the environment that they're coming into, what the competitive landscape is. It's like a golf course. It always stays the same, right? So it's really about that. The goal, of course, is to have a lot of, eventually build up those sponsorships so that, you know, whoever the top 10, you know, we'll have obviously larger scale tournaments, a lot of people will be playing, but then you'll have sort of that top 10 or 20 people who are coming in for various specific tournaments that we're holding. And what we want to do is, you know, fly them in, you know, have them stay. They're not out of pocket with money, and they compete for like a real thing, and have sponsors, you know, in for doing that. And so we're working on being able to facilitate that. And we're helping people understand that esports is not just League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm. It's all electronic gaming, and accomplishment in all electronic gaming is important. And so Twin Galaxies' job is to translate why that's important to the outside world. And we can do that much more easily now with our player skill index rating, which is looking at all the different positions you're holding across all of your different tracks and producing a number that people can understand, and then see how that number is produced. There's nothing like that in the market. It just isn't. So it's hard for a good video game player to be valid to someone who doesn't understand video game playing, and that's why the economic opportunity gets so limited, right? Because if you hear John Smith got a Nike contract, you don't even need to know what sport he plays. You know, obviously, whatever it is, it must be good because Nike gave him a contract, right? Nike's promoting him. So there's nothing like that for the video game space. And so Twin Galaxies will sort of move into that space. I heard that world record attempts won't be allowed at the Kong Off 4. Is this true? No, that's not true. You can attempt a world record whenever you want. Just make sure that if you want Twin Galaxies to recognize it, that you have some kind of evidence package, whatever that is, to present so that the community can verify that it happened. I mean, like I said, video is not required, but it certainly helps. From what I've seen, the way you guys adjudicate, it certainly helps. So far, I think we've only had one score, I think, successfully adjudicated in with a partial video, but that was because there were so many people live present who saw that it happened and verified that it did in fact happen. But it seems to be really tough to get through without a video. So I would recommend always having some sort of way to verify that you did it. So yeah, I mean, are you kidding me? I'd love for world records to come out of the Kong off. Sure, why not? But I'm not the one who says it's a world record or not. You guys are. Verified. That's the thing I like. I mean, there's like, what, almost 3,000 records that have gone in under this system, and you can see why. You can just click the score and see if you believe it's real or not. It's right there. It's a whole different world, man. Yeah, Stoodley. He's trying to get that perfect Pac-Man. The perfect Wii golf score has to just be submitted by the guy. Like there's this perfect Wii golf score thing that I guess Twin Galaxies had in the database, but then didn't. But there was a video that got put out, and it's clear that this guy did it. But I can't just take a score and just put it in. I just simply said, look, have that person just submit the video. I'm sure it'll be fine from there. It'll just go right into the database. That's all that has to happen, and then that's it. But I'm not in the business of putting scores into the database outside of the process. I just don't think that's right. I'm not going to do it. So I think that's it. I'm going to try not to run too long. Oh, I only have 1 minute anyway before 8 o'clock, right? Perfect. Because I was told to hurry it up by the community because they're doing some other event, some other broadcast thing, and they don't want us to overlap. So, which is totally fine. Let's see, was there anything else to bring up? Nothing. I mean, there are a lot of big things that are coming. As you could see, the arcade and esports center was kind of big. There are other big things. I just can't talk about them. But they were big, and they'll be worth it. And I just encourage you to continue to submit to the system and participate and just have a good time.
Twin Galaxies.